Hello, 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 Facebook, and good evening. It is time for another live, and I'm honored to share space with you tonight as I want to respond to a question I received from one of my followers. Um, that is a beautiful question, and it required me to do some introspection and to actually go within and ask my guides before I responded. And that's what I did. So I'm excited about sharing this with you all tonight. Um, Tonight, I'm going to respond to a question. I'm going to read this question out to you that I received while I was doing another video. And I couldn't answer this question at that time during this video, so I wanted to do a separate video to respond to this question. And the question was, um, what do, Jerome, what do your guides say about the black nervous system and what is needed collectively and individually to reset and regulate our nervous systems? And this is such a beautiful question and such an important question because our nervous systems are literally responsible for how we emotionally feel. They're also responsible for the levels of stress or peace or ease we feel. And our nervous systems are literally tied into our vibration and what we get to attract to us and what we manifest to us. And I've been talking about this if you've been watching this series, this video series that I've been doing all month. Well, now it's July, so this is a new month, but that I did all of June. I've been talking a lot about um, how we manifest things and what we need to do to heal ourselves in order to transcend racism, both as white people and black peoples. And in my last video, I really talked about, are you your own oppressor? And that was really about understanding what you're holding in your consciousness, what behaviors you're doing, and what you're holding in your nervous system. And so I asked my guides about this. And if you're new to me, I'm a channel and an intuitive healer. And I've been working for several years now with a group of guys that I call the Beloveds. And they're my spirit guides. They offer me um, higher perspectives, more spiritual wisdom, and deeper, more divine knowledge. And so this question was specifically for them, to them. So I asked them, and they told me there were three things. They showed me three things, really. And a lot of times, how my spirit guides will communicate with me is they'll show me images. Now, sometimes it'll be something audible. Sometimes it'll be something that I feel within my body. It'll be a knowing that's kind of downloaded that I'll feel in my body. And then sometimes they'll show me images. And this is the way they'll communicate with me. And they showed me this image of this practice that I did in 2012. So I want to share a story with you before I tell you the three things specifically that will help you understand what these three things are. So in 2012, at the beginning of 2012, right in January, I got my heart broken. There was I'd gone out to California to see this guy and thought this was going to work out, and it did not. And I ended up getting hurt, and I was in a lot of pain. I was in a lot of emotional pain. And I kind of asked spirit, I asked the universe, hey, help me out here. I don't know. I've tried everything I know how to do, and I'm really hurting, and I'm really tired of hurting. And I just want a different life. I want a better life, and I really want to attract and manifest better for my life than what I'm doing. I've thought I knew how was doing everything I knew how to do, and it's not manifesting better experiences for me. And so I want to have better experiences, and I want to feel more than better experiences. I want to feel good, right? And that directly goes into the nervous system, right? I want to feel happy. I want to feel at ease. I want to feel at peace. And I really, really want to feel like I'm fulfilled in my life. That was really kind of the big prayer that I had. And they led me to this video to watch, and it was from Abraham Hicks. If any of you all are familiar with Abraham Hicks, and they led me to this video to watch from Abraham Hicks, and what Abraham was talking about this 30-day process. Excuse me, you guys. I don't know about any of you all, but June and July, my allergies have been really kicking my butt. um, but they led me to this video to watch, and it was about this 30-day process. And what the process basically was you were to don't watch any TV. for 30 days, no TV, um, to really dramatically reduce your interaction with technology. So I didn't check my, I only checked my phone twice a day. I checked it when I got up after I meditated in the morning. And then, by the way, it was my phone and my computer. So I only checked those things twice. I checked them in the morning, and then I checked them right before I went to bed again after I meditated again. I didn't do any social media or anything like that for 30 days. And I'm trying to think what some of the other things were. I didn't do anything like that for 30 days. And again, there was no, also, I canceled all my major meetings. So all of my business meetings and things like that, I canceled them. I had clients that had already been booked up for that month. So just those clients, those were the only people that I worked with during that month. And I didn't do a lot of external social interaction. The main thing that I did, and this was the main part of this 30-day process, was I rested. I rested a lot. I slept when I wanted to. I took naps during the day. I got up when I wanted to. And every day, the main aspect of this process, this 30-day process, was I only did what I wanted to do every day, all day. So every day when I woke up, the question was, what would most bring me joy to do today? That was the question as I woke up and got put my feet on the bed. What would most bring me joy to do today? Right? And I didn't do anything from a sense of obligation or responsibility. Like again, I canceled all of that. I canceled all of the meetings. I didn't, like, if somebody said, "Hey, I want to talk to you about something. Can you talk to me about this next month?" Hey, can you if somebody wanted to meet with me about anything, it was the next month. This whole month there was no meetings, there was no phone calls. There, I didn't talk on the phone, by the way. The only phone calls I did was to my clients, or if there was an emergency for my parents. And I had a conversation with my family as well. This is what I'm about to go. I'm about to do this thing for 30 days. Do not call me. Do not come over. Do not do anything unless it's an emergency. And every single day, literally, all I did was what I wanted to do, what I really, really wanted to do, what was my highest excitement, what was the most exciting thing to me to do, or what the thing that was calling me was what I did. Right? If I felt a deep inspiration to do something, or I felt a deep pulling to do something, I would do that. If I felt I said I didn't make any phone calls, but if I felt a pull, like if I felt like this deep, exciting, inspirational pull to call somebody or to talk to them, I would do that. But any other way, I didn't do anything like that. I didn't respond to voicemails, nothing, right? For 30 days. And this was the main rule. It was to rest, to follow my joy, which is basically what I was doing. That's the summing of it up. To follow my joy, and then I meditated. Like every day, I would meditate for twice a day, and this was what I found happened in this process. That process was probably the most transformative process I've ever done in my entire life. And I've done many things. I've done some mystical things. I've gone all the way down the rabbit hole. I've paid thousands of dollars for retreats and spas and all the type of things. I've done a lot, but this process was the most transformative process of my entire life. Because what ended up happening was my vibration got so high. I was literally buzzing so high every day. I felt at all the stress that I was carrying in my life completely was gone. And I felt what my body really feels like when it is fully at ease, when there is no stress in my nervous system, when there's no fear in my nervous system. And also, by the way, the other part of this process was I followed my intuition 100%. If there was something I was being called or guided to do, I did it. If there was like again, if they said call somebody, I called them. If they said go somewhere, if they said go to the park today, I went. But again, my first question every day when I woke up was, what is the thing that would be what's my highest excitement for today? What's the thing that would bring me the most joy today? Right? And then after I did that, I was my what I found was, one, my body was at complete ease after this process. There was no stress in my body. There was no tension in my body anywhere. There was no tension in my mind anywhere. I was at complete ease. The other thing that I found was my vibration was out of the roof. My frequency was so high. It literally felt like I was floating. And I'll never forget, because after this process, I went to go eat with a friend and his wife. There were two of my close friends, and they wanted to see me because I had told them about this process and they wanted to hear all about it. And so we, after I had come out of this process, I went to go see them. We went to a restaurant, and they were like, literally, these people had seen me. I go over their house a lot. I hang out with them a lot, and they hadn't seen me in this 30-day process. And they, when they saw me, they were literally like deer in headlights. Like I had never seen. They were so like just looking. They literally sat across the table, just looking at me like this, with their eyes this wide, just looking, right? And they were like, and they stayed like that for a minute. They were like, I've don't know what happened, but you're almost like glowingly transparent. You're almost like you're translucent. You're that glowing. You're that your energy is so high. And it was like we've never seen anything like this, right? And when I would all of everyone that I had interacted with, every situation, my vibration was so high that when I walked into a room, people would stop. They would literally stop and they would look and they were like, who is that? You would literally hear them in the corner, like, who is that? Right. And my friends were all like, you are changed. You are completely different. Right. And one of the reasons, again, I was at peace. The other reason was I was happy. I was really happy. And this is kind of happiness that comes from actually doing what you want to do, and not what I now understand after from years. That was, 8 years ago. And I've done a lot of work around this, is like when you operate from joy, which is what I was doing, and I wasn't operating from obligation and responsibility, which most of us do. We operate on what we should do. We operate on what we think needs to get done. We operate on what we think we need in order to get money or whatever the case is, instead of operating off of what actually feeds us and what actually brings us, charges joy through our bodies. That's how most of us have been socialized and conditioned and programmed to live. And when this process shifted that programming for me, and I operated solely off of joy, and joy was my guiding system for the day, and I was so happy, like I was literally vibrating so hard. The other thing that happened from this that I saw, so I was deeply rested, I was deeply happy, and the other thing that happened, which was the miracle, because this was, again, I told you this was one of the most transformative experiences of my life. I wasn't I wasn't like marketing, I wasn't doing any work, I wasn't doing any of that. I had just put everything to the side. I made there are three things. I made more money in that month than I had in the entire year before. More money. It was just coming. It just came literally out of nowhere. Literally out of nowhere. Money was coming, checks were coming in the mail from things that I didn't even know that, I had participated in. Um, it was like clients were booking sessions for like months in advance, and I made more money in that month than I had the entire year before. And then these all these projects and all these opportunities that I had been stressing out to try to make happen for so long and for so hard, the previous year I've been trying. And I remember it was this big project with this organization that I wanted to do a speaking engagement with them and do some workshops and work with this company. And I have been trying and trying and trying and trying and trying and trying and doing all this work and doing all this legwork and doing all these proposals and all this stuff to make this happen, and all this stressful stuff, right? And it was not happening. And before I went into this process, as a matter of fact, they were like, you know what, we're just gonna pass on it. We're good, right? And I was disappointed because I had put all this work into it and all these different things during this process. During this process, it makes me laugh even still to this day. During this process, one of the representatives for this organization reached out and they were like, "Hey, I'm taking over the new things for. I'm the new person that's taking over our development and not development as far as like raising money, but like the development of our teams and our personnel and things like that." And I see here this proposal from you, and I really want to do this. I really want to do this. And as a matter of fact, we'd like to pay you more than what you were offering in this proposal. I didn't have to do anything, right? Nothing. And what this particular told at the end of this thing that happened, I got this message from Spirit that this was the way I was supposed to actually live my life. This wasn't the way that I was just supposed to do this little 30-day thing. This was the way that I was supposed to live my life. Now, I didn't actually go out and live my life like that. And that's why I experienced more stress and more strife after that. But that was the message, that this was actually the foundation for how life was supposed to be lived, from this type of space of following the joy, of deep rest, of trusting your inner guidance and knowing that everything is coming and that you don't have to make anything happen, and that this was supposed to be the way life was supposed to be lived. And it took me several years, many years after that, before I remembered this. As a matter of fact, this question that I got from this follower reminded me of this, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is what I'm actually trying, to take a deeper dive into in my life now." But the message was this was how life is supposed to be, and that I was socialized and traumatized out of this way of life. That I was traumatized into a way of life of trying to make things happen, and I was also not trusting, and I was operating more off of stress and fear, and I was not at ease. I was exhausted, right? And so that was kind of this message. So I wanted to lay this story out because now going into what my guide said, my guides that they showed me this process. The first thing they were like, "Do you remember this? Do you remember when you did this? Do you remember what happened to you and how you felt?" That is basically what's being asked of us as souls in black bodies in America, to reset our nervous systems. So before I go into the three things, because I basically shared them, and I'm going to go into them in depth. What is happening in the black nervous system is the black nervous system has been so when your nervous system is when you are in alignment with the energy of your soul, with the energy of your higher self, your nervous system is at ease, you are happy, you are at peace, there is no fear in your system, you trust, you have deep trust instead of fear, and you have a sense of freedom. And so your nervous system is not anxious, it's not scared, it doesn't feel bondage in any way. It doesn't feel your nervous system also doesn't have this feeling of not being enough. So it's not exhausted trying to prove itself or trying to get approval anywhere. And so but the black nervous system, because we have been traumatized in this country and continue to be traumatized. We've been traumatized and we get re-traumatized, right? Um, and then we've been socialized in this country, because this country, America, and Western culture, period, but especially American culture, is very much about the hustle and grind. Is very much about you as you are not being enough. You always have to add something to yourself or take something away from yourself in order to prove yourself worthy or belonging of some type of status or some type of approval or some type of um, praise, right? And so that we are in the country of constant self improvement. We're constantly trying to improve on ourselves, and what the messaging behind that improvement, and this is why we're exhausted. By the way, this is why there's so many stress related diseases in America, and this is why so many people in America are exhausted, is because we're constantly in this rat race of trying to improve upon ourselves, trying to look better, trying to have more money, trying to get more things, trying to do, because the messaging in that is heavy in our culture is you're not enough, you don't have enough, You aren't enough, and you're not going to be okay because you're not enough. And so we go from this space. And so that creates this high level of stress, right? The other thing that creates a high level of stress in the black nervous system is racism, right? Racism, and there's been many scientific studies that have shown how the African American nervous system is in fight or flight, right? And I was trying to do a video a long time ago, and it cut off because I didn't have my computer, my phone's memory was like zero, so it wouldn't let me do this live. But I was trying to do this video to talk about why African Americans are seen to be the highest affected by the coronavirus, and it's not because of what as a healer and as a channel and a person that sees energy and reads the energy of the body, it's not because of all these other things that we're saying, right? It's that we're trying to attribute to what it really is the black immune system has been suppressed highly, and it's highly suppressed because the black immune system is in trauma. And one of the aspects of trauma is you're afraid. And when you're afraid, it operates the flight or flight, the fight or flight system, fight, flight, or freeze actually system in the body. And one of the things that does when it begins, when you're afraid, the body believes it's under threat, and it begins to flood your system with stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline. Now, in short bursts, those things help you run faster, or they flood your muscles with blood so that you can fight off an enemy. But when you're in a chronic system, like you are when you are under a racist society or you're in an oppressive society anyway, and your body and your emotional system is constantly in threat, what ends up happening is your body is flooded with stress hormones, and the stress hormones suppress the immune system. As when the body has cortisol inside of it and it has adrenaline in the bloodstream, it suppresses the immune system, so the immune system cannot operate, and the body cannot heal during that at all, right? It has to be in what's called the rest and digest system. You can look that up. It's the rest and digest system, and that's when the body goes back to homeostasis, when it stops flooding the body with stress and cortisol and adrenaline, and it starts flooding the body with the other hormones that allow the body to restore itself and refresh itself and heal itself. So one of the reasons why black people are especially in America, and this is why especially in America they're the most affected, is because we are the most traumatized, and we're the most in fight or flight. And for most people, you have been operating in stress all of your life. You don't even know that you're not, right? That's your normal way of being. And this is when I was telling you about this thing when I did that 30-day process. This was a big aha for me, because what I began to realize was how my natural body actually feels, and how I was so far away from that. I was so far away from that, you guys. Like, when I did that rest and following my joy and only doing what I wanted and not operating off of obligation and responsibility and putting myself first, how my body felt was like night and day difference. And I was like, wow, this is what my actual body feels like. This is what my body actually feels like. Like, this is my, wow, I was operating in stress. I was operating in fight or flight. And I thought that was normal. This is actually how my body naturally is. Right? It was probably normal for me. Stress was normal, but it wasn't natural. That wasn't my natural state. And for many African Americans, since you were a kid, since you were a young child, you have been flooded. Your nervous system has been flooded with stress. And so that has become your normal way of being. But that doesn't mean because it was normal that it was healthy. It wasn't. And this is why we have so many illnesses in our culture. It's not about the food. It's not about, and this is a whole nother video I'll have to do at another time, but it's not about the food. It's not about what medicines you're taking or not taking. It's literally about how connected you are to your soul's energy. And when your soul is literally the source of wellness for your body was created to house the energy of your soul. That's the entire purpose of the body. The purpose of the body is to house the energy of the soul and to allow you to experience this dimension of life while your soul is here. If there are places where your soul's energy is disconnected from your body because you're afraid, because you're stressed, because you're ashamed, because you don't feel free, you are disconnecting a piece of your soul from your body, and your body cannot sustain wellness and not have your soul inside of it at the same time. It cannot. It's not going to be able to do it. It has to have the energy of your soul in it. When we talk about filling up your cup, what you're actually filling the cup up with is the energy of your soul. That's actually what fills the cup. And if the cup is not full in any way, that's when the body starts to break down. That's when it starts the dying process, basically. And this is why the virus was attacking us or affecting us so much, is because our systems, immune systems, the collective, are suppressed, are higher suppressed, because we have a lot of fear, we have a lot of stress, we have a lot of shame. Those things put the body in fight or flight, and they suppress the immune system, and they disconnect your soul, pieces of your soul, from your body, because your soul isn't shame, it's love, it's worthiness, which is the opposite of shame. Shame says there's something wrong with you. Worthiness says there's only something valuable about you. Fear disconnects your soul, because your soul is not fear, your soul is trust. Your soul is all is well. Your soul is I am safe. Fear is not. Your soul also, what did I say, bondage and stress, right? So stress is not your soul, because your soul is ease. Your soul is the feeling of ease. Your soul is not bondage, right? And when you feel bondage, you're disconnected, because your soul is freedom, it's liberation. Those are the feelings of the soul. So this is one of the reasons why we were that affected. So now going into the three things, right? So what my guide said was the way to reset the black nervous system. So first you have to understand, before what they say, is how we were disconnected. So our nervous systems are in stress, they are in fear, and they're in shame, and they're in bondage. And what I ended up doing in that process was I reversed all of that, and I felt free, I felt at ease, I felt happy, I felt rested. Um, and so that was, and I felt, worthy. And so that was how I that process resetted my nervous system. So what they were saying to me is the three things that we need to do is we need to rest. This is individually and collectively. We need to rest. So that's the first thing, was to rest. And rest meaning, I talked about this in the last video we did, where I talked about, are you being your own oppressor? And rest is different than just stopping, right? So you can wipe your to-do list clean, you can take a day off of work, all of that. But rest is about, that's not necessarily resting. Resting is about there being no expenditure of your energy anywhere. There's no place where your energies needed to go out, that you have to give out. You're not giving out, you're just being still, or you're receiving. And this is a big thing for black folks, to not just rest, but also to learn how to receive instead of giving out. Our culture is very much about over giving, to always give out, to always give out, to always give out, and not receiving back in equal measure, or more measure. And that's how you get drained, and that's how you leak your energy. And so resting is the time where you're not expending your energy out, so your energy can refresh. Sleep is a part of that, but resting also looks like just going and sitting by the lake and just being still for a minute. Resting also looks like, having a few good laughs with your friends. Resting also looks like, snuggling up with somebody and watching your favorite TV show. right? Resting looks like taking a hot bath, which is one of my favorite things. If you know me, I'm a bath type of dude. So, taking a bath, I got my candles, I got my incense, I got my jazz music on. I dim the lights. It's a whole thing when I take baths. But that's like resting looks like things like that, like getting a massage, like something like that, where you're not having to give your energy out. You're letting your energy rest, and what even better if you can receive something while you're letting your energy rest. That's something that we need to do more of, because we have been socialized in a culture that is hustle and grind, and so your energy is always giving out, and we have bought into that a lot as African Americans and blacks. We have this hustle and grind. We begin to glorify that. The hustle and grind culture is everywhere. It's in our music. It's all over hip hop. Let me grind, 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 grind. And what that does is it's great. It'll get you your money, but it'll burn your nervous system out at the same time. And I can't tell you, when I used to do business, when I was a business mentor and I would mentor entrepreneurs and help them be successful, I can't tell you how, like, the majority of my clients, and when I say majority, I'm talking about like 99% of the people, entrepreneurs that I would meet, were burnt out. They were exhausted. They were taking on too much, putting too much on their plate, saying yes to too much, trying to do too much. And it's this whole thing of this culture that we have, that our culture is really toxic, because it's really making us not operate in ways that actually feed the energy of our soul and help us embody more of the energy of our soul. It's helping us stress out and be exhausted. I have friends that are entrepreneurs, especially when they first start their business. They're working 19 hours a day. That's not sustainable. Not only is that not sustainable, it's not going to lead you to joy. You may get money, but what ends up happening, and you see this a lot with a lot of people in business, you may get money and you'll get it, but it's at the end, when you get that money, it's not even worth it. It's not even worth it. You can't even enjoy it. I remember when I worked out of college, I worked as a paralegal, and I worked in the top level law firms, some of the top level law firms, people that were representing presidents and like world leaders and things like that. And these attorneys were working so hard. They were working so hard. They had like 18-hour days. Literally, they would come in, they would be there before I got in, and they would be there after I left, unless I was doing like an overnight thing, right? And I remember having a conversation with one of them, and they were like, "I make like $600,000 a year, and I never see my kids. I hope they enjoy the money, ha 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 ha." But they didn't get to see the money. They didn't even get to see their family. They didn't even get to see the things that fed them. This is what's going on a lot in our culture. And so the thing that my guides were telling me was, we have got to rest. We have got to take a deep dive into rest. And it has, what does that look like for you? Like for me, one of the main things I have decided, I made a decision on this a few years ago, and I began to make choices and make drastic changes in my life to support this decision. And that was, I wanted I knew that the pace that I was moving at in my life, this fast pace of doing, 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 always doing something, always have another project, always do this, was was damaging to my soul. Like that wasn't who I was. That was stressing me out. I was always in overwhelm, and I was always feeling exhausted. And a lot of times, you can get sleep. You can get 10 hours of sleep, and if you get 10 hours of sleep, or 8 to 10 hours of sleep, and you wake up and you still tired, it has nothing to do with sleep, because it's not your body that's tired, it's your soul that's tired. And that's where a lot of us as black people exist. Our souls are tired, because the way we have been socialized into life, not and I'm not just talking about from out, from the systems or whatever, but from our own families, from our own culture. The way we are being socialized into and programmed into living life is tiring our souls out. And so I made a decision that I was going to live at a pace that I was going to slow my life way down and I was going to live at a pace where I could feel myself living. And that meant like not doing so much, not taking so many projects on, not saying yes to so many things, and really focusing on what fed my soul and not operating from a sense of stress or overwhelm or obligation or responsibility. And I feel so much better. I feel really close back to when I did that 30-day that thing. Actually, it was more like 45 for me, but when I did that process, right? And so that's what we're looking at individually. What does it look like? Like we're gonna have to slow our lives down. And if you look at this again, if you we come from an indigenous people, right? So if we're talking specifically about African Americans, the African cultures that we come from were indigenous. If you study indigenous cultures at all across the globe, they do not operate in stress. They do not operate in overwhelm. That is not how they, that is not in their culture. That is not how they move through the world. We were not meant to be operate like that. Nobody really is meant to operate in stress and overwhelm. That's not for the system. But especially for indigenous folks, ease is a huge aspect of our entire way of being. And we've been disconnected from that. As slavery in this country, excuse me, definitely disconnected Africans from that. It definitely disconnected us from that because you had to work sun up to sundown. Sun up to sundown, right? There's songs about it, there's been books about it, and this is how we continue our lives today. Sun up to sundown. And my guides were saying, this is the part. If you're going to reset your nervous system, you've got to pull yourself out of that. You've got to pull yourself however you can. You've got to pull yourself out of that and come back into a way of living that is restful, that is full of rest. There was a beautiful project that I mentioned in my last video that I'll mention again here that I highly recommend you follow. I'm gonna reach out to this sister and do some things with her. Probably have an interview or at least or a conversation with her live so that you can see us talking to each other. But it's called the Nap Ministry. The Nap Ministry, and their whole platform is about reconnecting people to rest and to living a more restful life and to understanding that being disconnected from being restful was part of colonialization and was part of racism and was part of slavery and but across the world we need to reconnect to rest. So that was the first thing that my guides showed me was like it's time for us to take a deeper dive into rest and individually first to understand what is the pace of life that makes you feel at ease and at peace, and are you living it? And if you're not, to take some time, get down, sit down with the pen and paper and ask yourself, what can I do so that I can live a more restful life? What do I need to change? Maybe that I need to change my job. Maybe I need to ask for help more. Maybe, yeah, and this is another thing that I know too, by the way. Black women are exhausted. I work with a lot of black women. I work with a lot of women, period. And I can say this across the board for women, period. Black women are exhausted because you're taking on way too much. You're trying to do all this stuff with the kids. You're trying to do all this stuff with work. You're trying to get all this. You're hustling and grinding, and you're exhausted. And the other part of this is gonna have to a big aspect of rest is you're gonna have to learn how to ask for help. You have to learn how to ask for help. Maybe somebody can watch the kids 2 nights a week. Maybe, instead of you running these errands, you ask somebody if you can run some errands. Even if you have to pay them, do that. One of the things I did for myself that I swear by to this day that has been a huge, huge aspect in helping me have a more restful life was I will hire out in a heartbeat. I will hire out in a heartbeat. If it means I don't have as much money anymore, I'm fine with that if it means I have more peace. I will spend money if it means I have more peace. One of the things I spend money on is I hire somebody to clean my house. I love a clean house. I'm a clean person. If you know me, I like everything in this place and a place for everything. And I like things to be clean. But the thing is, having to clean my house that way and having to keep it clean that way and also do the other things that are required of me, that I want to do, like write and teach and do videos like this and work with clients, all of that, that stresses me out. It takes too much time away and it also stresses me out. I hire somebody. If I only have $100 in the bank, right? That $100 is going to somebody cleaning my house. Promise you, right? I budget for that. I make sure that's there. That even when, and let me tell you something, I'm not talking about when I had a whole lot of money in the bank either. I'm talking about when I was like getting a disability check and that's all I had, right? And I think at that time it was like $600 a month. Guess what? $100 of that check went to somebody cleaning my house. And that made me feel at peace. And this is the type of things, decisions and choices. You're going to have to make some choices and some decisions to live a more restful life. And what you'll discover is this is the other thing about this that I want to really put this out here quickly. When you make a decision that you are going to be well and you start to do the things that serve and support your wellness, like me saying, okay, I know I don't have a lot of money and shit. I can't even really see where I'll, if I'm going to have enough money, but I really want this. This helps me feel at peace. This helps me feel at ease. This will help me rest. I'm going to do this. I'm going to take this risk. What ends up happening, this is what I found over and over and over again. When you tell the universe that I'm going to start taking care of myself better and I'm going to take whatever risk that means to bring myself back at ease and bring myself back in alignment with my soul, what you'll find is the universe will start to support you. It'll show up in ways and help you do that. So at first, when I first started this, I really didn't, to be honest, I really didn't have the money to pay the person. I was paying the person and that meant something else wasn't getting paid. And I was making a choice of which, what I could live with without for a minute because I wanted to live with this. What ended up happening when I showed up and I said, I'm going to do this, the universe started bringing me money. It just brought money. I always had money to pay my cleaning aid and get my bills paid. When I made the decision and I took the risk. After that, I always did. This is the thing, the universe will rise up to meet you when you start loving yourself more. And this is what we're really, in order to really heal the nervous system, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about loving ourselves more. One of the ways we need to love ourselves is get more rest. One of the ways I got more rest was to have somebody else clean my house. When I made that decision that I was going to do that, the universe rose up and it supported me. And I've never had to worry about it ever again. And that's something that, because I know this is something I hear from a lot of people. Where's the money going to come from? How am I going to do this? If I don't do this, how's this going to get done? You are a soul. You are loved by life because you are life itself. There is absolutely nothing that cannot be done for you. There is nothing impossible. If you want it, a way will be made, but you're going to have to take a risk. You're going to have to take a risk. This way of life is not, well being requires risk, it is radical. And this is what we're talking about, Black well being, right? How do we really reset our nervous systems back to peace and ease and to wellness? It's going to be radical. It's going to require you to take some radical risk, and it's going to require you to take a step on faith, to trust that you are loved so that the universe can prove it to you. Okay. And the second thing is joy. Is joy. There's no coincidence that one of the big things right now, the big themes in the past 2 years was Black joy. Like that's a big hashtag right now, right? Black joy. We have to reconnect to our joy because the soul is joy. And when you get caught up in overwhelm and stress, and when you get caught up in obligations and responsibilities, and when you get caught up in hustle and grind and trying to get them to approve of you and all that, and not doing what actually feeds your soul and what actually fulfills you and what you're actually passionate about, right? You get disconnected from joy. And that was, again, going back to that process. Every day, my guiding thing was what is the most exciting thing for me to do today? And I only did that. I did that first and foremost, and then everything else would get done if I had time for it. But like, we have been so disconnected from living a life, not just living a life from joy, but being guided by joy. Like, joy being your guiding thing. Like, we jump up and we got this to-do list. I need to do this is it. And you cross off all those things on to-do list, and then you haven't really done anything that fed your soul. You didn't laugh today. You didn't work in your passions. Like, I realized, a few years ago, how disconnected I was from the things that really make life worth it for me, which are like writing and teaching and dancing and singing, right? Those are things that I love. They feed me. They make me feel alive. Ask yourself, do you really feel alive? Are you doing the things every day, not once a month? Are you doing something every day that makes you feel alive? This is the path to go back to being guided by joy. Again, like, if you've never spent time with indigenous cultures or anything like that, I highly recommend it. Recommend it. Like, go on a trip and like go spend time in a village, and watch how people joy, joy everywhere. They could be some of the poorest countries in this world that I've been to have the most joyous people. And because they are not operated by these systems of like, got to get this, got to achieve this, got to do this to feel important, they're following about, I spend time with my friends. I spend time with my family. I have somebody that I love. I walk in nature every day. I do the things that I really love, and you can see the joy pouring through them, and you can see it on their face. Don't take my word for it. Prove it to yourself. Go see. This is what we need to be reconnected to. Their nervous systems aren't burnt out. Joy heals the nervous system. And so that's one of the things my spirit guides were telling me, was like, we got to get reconnected to joy. We got to be guided by joy. And I have tons to say about that. I'll have to do some more videos on this later about being guided by joy, but that's really a core element of this. And then the last thing they said to me was, a thing to really to really reset our nervous systems is, we have to begin to trust again. We have to begin to trust again. We have been the black consciousness, the black collective consciousness is filled with fear. It is filled with fear, and understandably so. Understandably so, from all of the horrors and damages and things like that we've experienced in this country collectively. But it's put so much fear in our consciousness. We don't, and one of the biggest fears that we have, and this is what I've seen myself when I've worked with clients who are black, and I get into their energy fields. I can see this. It kind of lights up like a Christmas light. It's so strong, and it's the fear that I'm not safe in this world. This world isn't a safe place for me to be, right? And that things aren't going to really work out for me. And from these fears, what we try to we move through the world constantly feeling threatened and not feeling safe. So constantly, again, being in fight or flight. And if we believe that, and I had this one myself that I had to heal. If we believe that things aren't going to work out for us, what we try to do then, if we try to make them, and that is where we start to constantly work in overwhelm, and we try to do too much, and we take on too much, and because we don't have this belief in natural receiving. We weren't taught that anywhere, by the way. We're not taught that in our schools. We're not taught that in our churches. Like this thing that you already naturally deserve. You already are worthy. You don't have to do anything for life to deem you worthy. It loves you. Life loves you. It already knows you're worthy. It already wants to give. It doesn't want to. It's not like life is holding anything from you. It's not withholding anything from you because it loves you. You're withholding it because you're telling it that you're holding an energy in your body that says, this can't happen until I make it happen. And I have to work really hard in order to make this happen. So this won't come to me until I work really hard. Remember, the outer world is just the reflection of your inner world, and so it can't operate differently than how you feel. So if you feel that the only way good can come to you is if you work really hard and you hustle and grind, then that is the only way it's going to come. But the moment you step back and you begin to trust that my good comes to me from every corner, around every corner, my good comes to me easily and efficiently. I don't have to burn my nervous system out in order to receive what I want. I receive easily. Not only do you start to put yourself at peace, but you open yourself up to receiving. Like this is the way this universe is supposed to work. And then we've been disconnected from the truth of who we are as divine beings, as souls. We are worthy beings unconditionally, whether you have a degree or not, whether you look like that person on that magazine or cover or not, whether you use Ebonics or proper English or not. You're already worthy. You don't need to do and do and do and do and do and add and add and add and add and add and improve and grind and grind and grind and grind to make something happen. You have to let it happen. Now, yes, there'll be actions to take, but they'll be inspired actions. They won't feel like work. They'll feel like something that you wanted to do because when you're inspired, it comes from joy. It comes from something that you feel excited to do. This is how the soul guides you, by the way. It guides you through joy and like, oh, this feels like the right thing to do. Oh, this feels exciting for me to do. And then so instead of this thing feeling like a chore and instead of it exhausting you, it charges you. It energizes you. And you're doing it, it doesn't even feel like you're working. It feels like you're getting fed. And then all of a sudden here's all this stuff coming. And you'll sit back and you'll be like, people will amaze the literally when you operate by the soul and you come in alignment with your soul, people will look at your life from the outside and they will be amazed. They will be amazed at how things work out. People look at me and they're like, how did you get all of that? How did that happen for you? You didn't even, I'm over here doing all this and you didn't even do anything and this is coming over here for you. How did that happen? I know I'm lovable. I trust in life. And because I trust in life, life proves itself trustworthy to me. And because I know I'm lovable, I get loved. This is the work. And so, one of the things that my guys were telling, specifically, you can do individually, black folks, is it's time to do a lot of mirror work. The mirror work does not work in theory, it works in practice. You have to do it in order to see the results. It doesn't work just because you understand. You got to practice it. And two of the things to really get in the mirror, I would do this every day. I would every time I pass the mirror, and I'm not kidding. I'm not talking about just a few times. Every time I pass by a mirror during the day for 30 days, try this. Just try it for 30 days. Every time I pass by the mirror, look yourself in the eyes and say, "Life loves me." 10 times, and breathe deep after every time you say it and look yourself in the eyes again. Life loves me. And then after you say that, say, I am safe in this world. This world is a safe place to be in. and it will prove it to me now. I am safe in this world. This world is a safe place for me to be in, and it will prove it to me today. Just try those two things. Just try for 30 days. And then every night in your journal, journal out, how was life good to me today? How did it love me to How did life love me today? How did it love me? Maybe something worked out for me that, I was worried about. Maybe something came to me that I thought I was going to have to go do and it came to me on its own. Life loves me. How did it love me today? How was I safe today? How was I safe today? Because the more you begin to do that, the more you begin to feel lovable and the more safe you begin to feel. And as your nervous system feels safe and it feels lovable, you begin to manifest more experiences that love you and more experiences that make you feel safe. Because remember, your nervous system is your attraction point. It's what sets the tone for what gets attracted to you. Your nervous system creates your energy. It creates your vibration. And remember, your vibration is what determines what gets manifested as your life. All of what gets manifested as your life, by the way. All of it. So it determines who gets to show up in your life and how they get to behave when they get there. It gets to determine what type of money you get. It gets to determine what experiences and events happen. It's based upon, if you're afraid, you can't you have to manifest a reason to be afraid. You have to. If you trust, you have to manifest a reason to trust. If you feel in bondage, you have to manifest a reason to feel imprisoned. If you feel stressed, see, here's the thing that we're not taught. We think we can stress our way into ease. It doesn't happen like that. Because if you feel stressed, you're going to continually attract more situations to you to help you feel more stressed. It's about how you feel. So healing your nervous system is of utter importance. And these are the three things: rest, that are going to help. There are some other things, and individually, you may have some other things to work on as well. But like what they told me is the big things for us is rest, joy, and trust. Getting those back in our nervous system will dramatically help us have a better experience of well being as Black folks. I'm here doing my work. I'm going to take a deeper dive into them because as I got this question, I was like, oh, yeah, I can rest even more now. And I know that I need to follow my joy even more as well. And I'm going to be practicing that myself. And I invite you all to look at where you can practice these things at a deeper level on your own as well. And then we can come together and talk about how to do it as a community, because it's time. It's time for us to be well, and we can't live well lives without a well nervous system. Thank you all for watching. Until next time, I love you. Now go love yourself. Bye.